The door creaked open, and my heart stopped. I was sprawled across my bed, laptop glowing, my secret sketches of him scattered like confessions on the sheets. Ethan, my roommate, stood frozen in the doorway, his brown eyes wide, catching me in the act of drawing him again. Grayson Carter, 25 and perpetually awkward, had been sketching Ethan Caldwell for months. Not just his chiseled jaw or the way his blonde hair caught the morning light, but the way he laughed, the way his brow furrowed when he read, the way he made my tiny New York apartment feel like home. I thought I'd been discreet, hiding my obsession in late-night scribbles. But now, with Ethan staring at my sketches, my carefully guarded world was unraveling. "Grayson," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "What are these?" He stepped closer, his navy sweater clinging to his frame, and I scrambled to slam my laptop shut, my face burning. But Ethan didn't back away. Instead, he picked up a sketch, the one where I'd drawn him shirtless, leaning against our kitchen counter, his eyes soft and unguarded. My stomach twisted. This was it. He'd call me a creep, move out, and I'd lose the one person who'd made my life in this chaotic city bearable. I moved to New York City 2 years ago, chasing a dream of becoming a graphic novelist. Brooklyn was gritty, alive, and unforgiving, and I'd been drowning in self-doubt until Ethan answered my Craigslist ad for a roommate. He was 26, a freelance photographer with a smile that could stop traffic and a warmth that made our shoebox apartment feel like a sanctuary. We'd clicked instantly, late-night pizza runs, binge-watching sci-fi shows, debating the best coffee shops in Williamsburg. But somewhere between our first shared laugh and the 100th time he'd made me coffee just the way I liked it, I'd fallen for him. Hard. And I'd been too terrified to admit it, even to myself. Now, as Ethan held my sketch, his expression unreadable, I braced for the worst. "I'm sorry," I stammered, my voice barely audible. "I didn't mean for you to see those. They're just stupid drawings." My hand shook as I tried to gather the papers. But Ethan stopped me, his fingers brushing mine. The contact sent a jolt through me, and I froze. "They're not stupid," he said softly, his eyes locking onto mine. "They're beautiful." My breath caught. Beautiful? Was he mocking me? But his gaze was steady, intense, and something in it made my heart race for reasons I couldn't name. He set the sketch down and stepped closer, so close I could smell the cedarwood in his cologne. "Grayson," he said, his voice dropping, "how long have you been drawing me like this?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. The truth was too heavy. Months of stolen glances, of sketching him when he wasn't looking, of pouring my unspoken feelings into every line. I convinced myself it was harmless, a way to cope with the ache of wanting someone I could never have. Ethan was straight, or so I thought. He dated women, talked about ex-girlfriends, never given me a reason to hope. But now, standing inches from me, he wasn't pulling away. "I don't know," I managed, my voice cracking. "A while. You're inspiring." "Okay." I didn't mean to make it weird. I looked down, unable to meet his eyes, but Ethan tilted my chin up gently, forcing me to face him. "It's not weird," he said, his thumb brushing my jaw. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. "What's weird is that I've been watching you, too." His words hit me like a freight train. Watching me? What did that mean? Before I could process it, He leaned in, his lips brushing mine in a kiss so soft, so tentative, it felt like a dream. I froze, then melted into it, my hands finding his shoulders as the world tilted. When we pulled apart, my mind was a mess. Ethan, are you not, are you? I couldn't finish the sentence. He smiled, a little shy, a little bold. I don't know what I am, Grayson, he admitted, his voice raw. But I know I've been thinking about you. A lot. He glanced at the sketches again, then back at me. And I think you've known that longer than I have. My head spun. Ethan, the guy I'd been pining over in secret, had been watching me? Had he seen the way I looked at him? The way I lingered when he laughed? Had he been waiting for this moment as much as I had? The thought was dizzying, terrifying, exhilarating. But as his hand found mine, grounding me, I realized this was only the beginning. Whatever this was, whatever we were, it was about to change everything. The next morning, I woke up convinced it had been a dream. Ethan kissing me, confessing he'd been watching me. It felt too surreal, too perfect. But when I stumbled into the kitchen, there he was, flipping pancakes, his blonde hair mussed, his smile as warm as the sunlight streaming through our window. Morning, artist, he said, sliding a plate toward me. My cheeks burned at the nickname, but his grin was playful, not mocking. I sat, trying to act normal, but my hands shook as I picked up my fork. Last night's kiss lingered in the air between us, unspoken but heavy. I wanted to ask him what it meant, what we meant, but fear glued my tongue. What if he'd changed his mind? What if this was just a moment of curiosity for him? While for me, it was everything. Ethan sat across from me, his knee brushing mine under the table. So, he said, cutting into his pancake, you gonna show me more of those sketches? His tone was light, but his eyes held a challenge. I nearly choked on my coffee. They're not, they're just rough drafts, I mumbled, avoiding his gaze. But Ethan leaned forward, his hand resting on the table, close enough to touch. Grayson, they're incredible. You're incredible. His voice was soft, sincere, and it unraveled me. I'd spent so long hiding this part of myself, my art, my feelings, my identity, terrified of being seen. But Ethan saw me, and he wasn't running. We spent the day together, something we'd done 100 times before. But now every glance, every brush of his arm against mine, felt electric. We wandered through Prospect Park, the autumn leaves crunching under our feet, and Ethan talked about his photography, his dreams of capturing stories through his lens. I listened, but my mind kept replaying his words from last night. I've been thinking about you. A lot. What did that mean for someone like him? Someone who'd never hinted at being anything but straight? That evening, back in our apartment, I found the courage to ask. We were on the couch, a half-empty pizza box between us, the TV droning in the background. Ethan, I started, my voice barely steady. What's happening here? With us? My heart pounded as I waited, every second stretching into eternity. He said, his pizza sliced down, his expression softening. I don't have all the answers. Grayson, he said. I've always dated women. Yeah. But with you it's different. I don't know what to call it, but I know I feel something. He reached for my hand, his fingers warm and sure. I want to figure it out. With you. My chest ached with hope and fear. I wanted to believe him, but I've been burned before. Growing up in a small Ohio town, I'd learned early to hide who I was. The whispers, the sneers, the way my family's love turned conditional when I came out at 17, it had left scars. Ethan was different. But what if this was just an experiment for him? What if I let myself fall deeper, only to lose him before I could spiral further? Ethan pulled me closer, his lips finding mine again. This kiss was bolder, hungrier, and I let myself sink into it, pushing my doubts aside. But as we pulled apart, a shadow crossed his face. "There's something you should know," he said, his voice low. "I saw your sketches weeks ago. In your room, when you were out." I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure what I felt. But I kept looking. Grayson. I couldn't stop. My stomach dropped. Weeks? He'd known about my feelings, my obsession. For weeks, part of me felt violated, exposed. But another part, a reckless, hopeful part, thrilled at the thought that he'd been drawn to my art. To me. Even then. "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I was scared," he admitted, his eyes searching mine. Scared of what it meant. Scared of messing this up. He gestured between us, his hand lingering in the air. "But I'm done being scared. I want this. I want you." His words lit something inside me, a spark of possibility I hadn't dared to imagine. But as we sat there, hands intertwined, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something bigger, something that would test us both. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen kisses and late-night talks. Ethan and I fell into a rhythm, navigating this new, fragile thing between us. But the world outside our apartment wasn't as kind. New York might be progressive, but it wasn't immune to judgment, and I felt it every time we held hands in public, every sideways glance from strangers. One evening, we were at a gallery opening in Chelsea, Ethan's photos on display. He looked stunning in a tailored blazer, his confidence magnetic as he mingled with the crowd. I hung back, sipping wine, my sketchbook tucked under my arm. I was proud of him, but the weight of being us in public gnawed at me. What if someone from his life, his friends, his family, saw us together? Would he pull away, as if on cue? A tall guy in a leather jacket approached Ethan, clapping him on the shoulder. "Caldwell, you didn't tell me you were showing tonight." The guy's voice was loud, his grin easy, but his eyes flicked to me, lingering with curiosity. Ethan introduced me as Grayson, my roommate, and my heart sank. Roommate. Not boyfriend. Not partner. Just roommate. I forced a smile, but the words stung. Back at the apartment, I couldn't hold it in. "Roommate," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Is that all I am to you?" Ethan's face fell, and he reached for me, but I stepped back. "Grayson, I didn't mean it like that," he said, his voice pleading. I panicked. Jake's from my old life, my college days. I haven't told anyone yet. I'm still figuring this out. Figuring it out? I snapped, my insecurities spilling over. "Ethan, I've been out for years. I've dealt with the hate, the rejection. I can't go back to hiding who I am. Not even for you." My voice broke, and I hated how vulnerable I sounded. Ethan's eyes softened, and he closed the distance between us, his hands cupping my face. "I'm not asking you to hide," he said. "I'm asking for time. This is new for me, Grayson. I've never felt this way about a guy before. But I'm not ashamed of you. I'm just scared of losing everything else." His honesty disarmed me. I knew he was trying, but the fear of being his secret lingered. Over the next few days, we tiptoed around the tension, but it didn't fade. Ethan started spending more time at the studio, and I buried myself in my art, sketching darker, more chaotic pieces that mirrored my unease. Then came the night that changed everything. I was alone in the apartment, working on a new graphic novel pitch, when Ethan burst through the door, his face pale. "Grayson," he said, his voice shaking. "My parents are coming to visit. Tomorrow." My heart plummeted. His parents, conservative, traditional, the kind of people who'd never understand us. I'd heard enough about them to know this could break us. "What are we going to do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan paced, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know," he admitted. "I haven't told them about us. I haven't told them about me." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "I need you to help me through this, Grayson. I can't do it alone." I wanted to be angry, to demand he choose me, but the vulnerability in his voice stopped me. He was scared, just like I'd been all those years ago. And despite the hurt, I loved him. So I nodded, my heart heavy but resolute. "Okay," I said. "We'll face them together." Ethan's parents arrived the next morning, their presence filling our apartment with an oppressive weight. His mother, Diane, was all polite smiles and perfectly pressed dresses, while his father, Robert, had a handshake like a vice and a stare that could cut glass. I hovered in the background, trying to blend into the furniture, but Ethan kept pulling me into the conversation, introducing me as Grayson. My friend. Another stab, but I swallowed it. Dinner was torture. We sat at a cramped table in a Williamsburg bistro, the clink of silverware loud in the strained silence. Diane asked about my art, her tone dripping with condescension, while Robert grilled Ethan about his unstable photography career. I could see Ethan shrinking, his usual confidence dimmed under their scrutiny. I wanted to reach for his hand, to anchor him, but I didn't dare. Then it happened. Robert, mid-sentence about Ethan's responsibilities, glanced at me and said, "You're a good influence, Grayson. Maybe you can talk some sense into him about settling down with a nice girl." The words landed like a punch. Ethan froze, his fork hovering, and I felt my face flush. A nice girl. The assumption burned, not just for me, but for Ethan, who was grappling with a truth his parents couldn't see. Before I could stop myself, I spoke. "Actually, Mr. Caldwell, Ethan's doing just fine. He's talented, driven, and he's figuring out who he is. That's more than most people can say." The table went silent. Ethan's eyes met mine, a mix of gratitude and fear, and I realized I crossed a line. But I didn't care. I was tired of hiding, tired of watching Ethan shrink. Diane's smile tightened. "Figuring out who he is?" she echoed, her tone sharp. "What does that mean?" Ethan's jaw clenched, and I saw the panic in his eyes. This was it, the moment he'd been dreading. I reached for his hand under the table, squeezing it, willing him to be brave. "Mom, Dad," Ethan said, his voice trembling but steady. "There's something I need to tell you." My heart pounded as he took a deep breath. I'm not who you think I am. I'm with Grayson. I love him." The silence that followed was deafening. Robert's face hardened, and Diane's eyes widened. her hand clutching her necklace. I braced for the explosion, but it didn't come. Instead, Robert stood, his chair scraping the floor, and walked out without a word. Diane followed, her face pale, leaving Ethan and me alone at the table. Ethan's shoulders slumped, and I pulled him into a hug, not caring who saw. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you." He clung to me, his breath shaky, and I knew this was a turning point. He'd chosen me, chosen us. But what cost? Back at the apartment, Ethan was quiet, his eyes distant. "They'll come around," I said, trying to sound hopeful, but he shook his head. "They won't," he said softly. "But I don't care." I meant what I said. "Grayson, I love you." His words hit me like a wave, washing away the fear and doubt. I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it, and for the first time, I believed we could face anything together. The fallout with Ethan's parents lingered like a storm cloud. He threw himself into his photography, spending long hours at the studio, while I poured my emotions into my graphic novel. My sketches of Ethan evolved, no longer secret confessions, but bold celebrations of our love. But the tension in our apartment was palpable. Ethan was hurting, and I didn't know how to fix it. One night, I found him on the fire escape, staring at the city lights. "I keep thinking about what I've lost," he said, his voice raw. "My family, my old life. But then I think about you, and it's worth it." His words broke my heart and mended it all at once. I sat beside him, our shoulders touching, and we talked until dawn about our fears, our dreams, the life we wanted to build. But life had other plans. A week later, I got a call from a publisher interested in my graphic novel. It was the break I'd been waiting for, but it meant moving to Chicago for a few months to work with their team. I was torn, thrilled for the opportunity, terrified of leaving Ethan when he needed me most. When I told him, his face lit up with pride, but I saw the flicker of fear in his eyes. "You have to go," he said, his voice firm. "This is your dream, Grayson. I'll be here when you get back." But the distance scared me. We were still so new, so fragile. What if time apart broke us? The night before I left, Ethan surprised me with a candlelit dinner in our apartment. He'd cooked badly, but adorably, and we laughed until tears streamed down our faces. As we lay in bed later, tangled in each other's arms, he whispered, "I'm not going anywhere. Grayson, you're my home." I held him tighter, praying he meant it. Chicago was a whirlwind. The publisher loved my work, and I threw myself into the project. But every night, I ached for Ethan. We video called constantly, his smile a lifeline across the miles. But I noticed he was quieter, more withdrawn. When I pressed him, he brushed it off, saying he was just busy. I wanted to believe him, but doubt crept in. Then, 2 months into my trip, Ethan stopped answering my calls. Texts went unread, voicemails unanswered. Panic clawed at me. Had he changed his mind? Had his parents gotten to him? I cut my trip short and flew back to New York, my heart in my throat. When I walked into our apartment, I found Ethan sitting on the couch, surrounded by his photos, but not the ones I knew. These were of me, laughing in the park, sketching at our kitchen table, sleeping with sunlight on my face. "Ethan," I said, my voice breaking. "What's going on?" He looked up, his eyes red. "I was scared," he said, scared I'd lose you to your dreams, to the world. So I started taking these to hold on to you. He gestured to the photos, his voice cracking. I love you, Grayson. I'm sorry I pulled away. I crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling him into my arms. You idiot, I said, tears in my eyes. You'll never lose me. We kissed, and in that moment, I knew we were stronger than the distance, the doubt, the world. Back in New York, Ethan and I rebuilt what distance had strained. My graphic novel was published to critical acclaim, and Ethan's photography career took off. His work featured in galleries across the city. But more than our successes, it was our love that defined us. We faced the world together, unapologetic and unafraid. One spring evening, we stood on the Brooklyn Bridge, the city sparkling below us. Ethan pulled me close, his breath warm against my ear. I've been thinking, he said, his voice soft but sure. I want to spend my life with you, Grayson. Not just as roommates, but as everything. My heart stopped, then soared. I turned to him, seeing the boy I'd sketched in secret, the man I'd loved through every storm. Are you proposing? I asked, half laughing, half crying. He grinned, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple silver ring, etched with a tiny star, a nod to the nights we'd spent dreaming under the city sky. Yeah, he said. I am. I said yes. Of course. And we kissed as the city hummed around us. Our love a quiet rebellion against a world that hadn't always understood us. Ethan's parents never fully came around, but we built our own family, friends who celebrated us, colleagues who admired us, and each other, always each other. Years later, at my book launch, I dedicated my novel to Ethan, my muse, my home. As I spoke to the crowd, I caught his eye, his smile as radiant as the day we'd met. My sketches had started as a secret, a way to hold on to a love I thought I'd never have. But Ethan had seen me, loved me, and together, we'd written a story far greater than any I could draw. Our love wasn't perfect. It was messy, raw, and real, forged through fear and courage, doubt and devotion. But it was ours, and it taught me that love, true, unshakable love, is worth every risk, every leap, every moment of being seen.